And then it's always dangerous to talk about China's position on any issue in geopolitics in the same way that you can say, well, what's Washington's position on nuclear weapons? And the answer is there are about like 11 different positions, with different
Right,
groups of
sure.
people, and it's never unified. And in China, do you occasionally get somebody who's very senior in the political establishment who says something that's where everybody working for that guy is going, oh my God, I can't believe he actually just said that, right? You see that too. And so it's really tricky interpreting what any one person says. What's important is that the Chinese definitely feel under threat, that the US is leading an effort to deprive them of the single most valuable piece of equipment for growing any economy, which is the modern semiconductor chip. And the fact is, we do have a global shortage, and the cost of building a new semiconductor plant is billions. It's extraordinary how expensive it is. We can't regain that ground, even the United States. So this is a finite resource that now everybody's fighting over. And let me add another layer of complexity to this, because we used to talk about war games in geopolitics, and that meant, tanks, troops, personnel. Yeah, now it means children's games like TikTok, Minecraft. They've literally been named as frontline phenomena of the new geopolitical warfare. Why? Well, because it's the digitization of geopolitics. As we create for every person, every place, everything, a digital twin, as we absorb all this data, like every time any of us plays Minecraft, and it's gathering information about your emotional reaction, about, if these games are equipped with listening equipment in the house, all the conversations, what's happening in the households, all this information is incredibly valuable for understanding the psyche of the nation, frankly, for any individual. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I was working in the British government and we were doing the Brexit negotiations, everybody was like, we have to lock all the documents in the building and nobody's allowed to take any documents home. And I said, okay, but what about when you get home? And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, so you got home and you start talking, you say, well, I've got to go down because the prime minister is calling an emergency meeting. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, but everyone now has all these chips in their rubbish bin, their trash can, the refrigerator, the children's game. If someone wanted to listen in on a UK cabinet minister, there are like 20 things in the house that are IoT enabled that totally permit you to do that. So, and they were like, oh, we hadn't really thought of that. And I'm like, this is the new Cold War. It's happening in the digital space. So this is why, when we talk about where's the new geopolitics, even militaries haven't fully understood this new digital battle space that's maybe in your kitchen rather than on the border of Estonia or something.
How does this
That's
play
a really
into what we're seeing with the Chinese government stepping in very aggressively in some of the consumer tech and education industries in China, and seemingly deciding that innovation and investment has kind of run its course and is now counterproductive in those domains, and making the explicit pivot towards more strategically productive or valuable industries like semiconductors. I mean, is this a reflection of China recognizing that some of these technologies can be used against them and their citizens, and are currently being used counterproductively in those ways, and also seeing an opportunity to redeploy resources in more strategic sectors?
Sure. At the end of the day, the Chinese political leadership have never given up on the idea of command and control. They never actually became capitalist. The people became capitalist, and they all went off. And when this idea of it doesn't matter if the cat is black or white as long as it catches a mouse, and that was permission for the public to go make money. But it doesn't mean that the political leadership ever bought into the idea that capitalism should be allowed to just run free. It's always been a command control. We'll give you permission as long as it suits the leadership. And then when a lot of people started getting very, very rich in China, and the distribution of wealth started to become so wide, and that started to cause social pressure, suddenly they, basically the people running the biggest companies disappear. And when they reappear, they give a press conference saying, I decided to give away 99% of my company. Yeah, where did they give it? Back to the government. It's a kind of it's a expropriation approach, but no one would phrase it that way, but that's one way of thinking about it. And by the way, just to be clear, I don't want to be too heavy-handed just on the Chinese, because in the West, we are also using this digital data, digital information landscape in a very similar way. It's just we privatize the function. So we're okay with Amazon and Facebook and Google all having the social credit system that's applied to each one of us, that somehow that's better. But is it? Or is it really the same thing? So again, as we digitize reality, digitize politics and geopolitics, the landscape of that is something so novel, something, to me, it's literally the Wild West of our generation. It's this lawless place where we have not established what are the rules, what are the ethics, what's allowed, what's not allowed. And so that's a universal phenomena. So I don't want to be too tough on the Chinese, because we've got exactly the same phenomena just occurring in a slightly different way.